Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rolldown, the TFT esports podcast, where we talk about everything from the grassroots to the pro scene, from the couch to the crown. My name is CLE. I'm your host, joined, as always, by Gangly, who is super sad today because he did not get his Riftbound box.
No, me along with 3 billion other people did not get our Riftbound boxes. Unfortunately, it's in the hands of all the droids around the world. But I did get a Fiora starter deck, so not nothing.
I got both starter decks as well. Excited to give those a try. Also on our show, joining us from the TFT Pro Circuit, rank 1 and 2 from the tournament this past weekend. PockyGom, second place at your first TPC, and first time on the show. Happy to have you.
I'm happy to join here too. It's been kind of a while since I've done well on a tournament, like well. So excited to be back.
Glad to have you, and for a second time on the show, because now he is the first from the Americas to lock in a slot at the Tactician's crown. Wasianiverson, thank you for joining us once again on the show. Excited to see you at Worlds.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. I love yapping about TFT, competitive TFT, so happy to be back on the podcast again.
Yeah, and we're happy to have you as well. It has been an exciting weekend full of TFT. It felt like we went from like no TFT competitively to, okay, now there's trials, there's all these different things all happening at the same time.
We kind of talked a little bit about that in the last episode too, where it was like this long drought, and then you and I were just kind of resting, and then in a random DM we're like, oh my gosh, like we have so much to do now. Everything came upon us so quickly. But yeah, it's nice to be back in the swing of things. I feel like the first TPC, and I think other people might feel this way. For me, it did feel, unless you're actually competing in it, like it almost felt like it just came out of nowhere. But now that it happened, we're kind of back in the rhythm of it. You know, it's like now we know that the next one's coming, that we have all these other events. There's some other events that I know we're going to talk about today as well. So it does really feel like we're back in TFT season.
Pocky, did it kind of sneak up for you when this all started? I know obviously Paris was great, but getting back home and being like, all right, it's time for the TFT regular season.
For me, I did, like after Paris, I went on a vacation with like T-Lights and a few of his friends from the PMD group. So I didn't have exactly as much time to practice, but I was like more or less prepared to grind a bunch for the first cup, which is what I did. I kind of like, I had 30 games going into the week before TPC, and then I got around like 80 more games in. So I put in a lot more time than I usually did last set.
And Wasian, it was we'll talk about this a little bit more, but it was a new patch basically. And so what was like the scramble of we've played on this patch for now 3.5 weeks on this, 3 weeks on this B patch, and now we have this brand new patch. Was it like a scramble to be like start practicing immediately?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I was getting really tired of like the B patch since it had just been out so long, and like I knew there was like no reason to practice it because the tournament was going to be on the new patch. So I was kind of just in the PBE waiting room, and I feel like every day I was like expecting the PBE to come out, and then it just like didn't came out, and then like 2 days before the tournament it finally came out, and so I only like really had like 48 hours to practice for the tournament.
Speaking of 48 hours to practice for a tournament, Gangly, have you practiced at all for this, man?
Okay, well, no. The short answer is no. For podcast listeners, we are showing a graphic of the Tri-State Invitational, which is going to be happening next weekend, which talk about things sneaking up on you. 24th and 25th of January. We have a 2-day LAN event happening in the heart of New York City. PockyGom is one of the players that's going to be featured there alongside me. I have not played. I checked my LOL chest before. I have not played in 22 days. I have been, yeah, it has been a little bit. And here's the thing. Someone like PockyGom can go to Paris, take a vacation, come back having only played 30 games, play his crazy amount of 80 games, and suddenly go second at a gigantic stacked TPC event. I can't do that. It's actually so low EV for me to practice for this tournament at this point because I'm severely outmatched, outclassed, out volumed, and I'm pretty sure what I actually need to do in order to stand a chance here is I need to find some I need to replay it. That's what I need to find my Kog'Maw from last set when replay has no games the entire set. He goes into every TPC and he's just re-rolling Kog'Maw. That's what I need to find, because I think there's a chance I might be able to sneak out of my group if I can find some reroll to default to, unless I have like a giga spot for something more real. So that's why we've invited PockyGom and Wasianiverson here on the show today to help me develop a game plan for how I can top 8 the Tri-State Invitational. Wasian, you have the floor. How do I get there?
I mean, we were actually like talking about this, and we were saying like, oh, if Replay was playing this set, he would love Bel'Veth right now. Like Bel'Veth is like so good, like underplayed, like kind of one-trickable. You can just like figure out like what the good builds on there are, and like the board has like a little bit of flexibility, so it's like pretty high like skill to the comp. But I think it's like pretty one-trickable. So if Replay was playing the set, I feel like he would be like one-tricking Bel'Veth.
Okay. All right, noted. Thank you, Wasian. Yeah. And just talking real quick about the event itself, outside of like the jokes of me playing, I said before, PockyGom is playing there. We have 4 players who are either in or have been in TPC, between Pocky, Philip, Bosso, and Dehua, all represented as our like 4 invited players. And then we have 12 other players who qualified in by competing throughout all of 2025. It's going to be a really fun event. If you were able to watch the TFT Summit, however many years ago that was at this point, that was for Monsters Attack, so like 3 years or so ago. We're aiming for something like that. We don't have like a giant studio, but we do have a venue for 2 days. We're just going to be hanging out. We'll have a co-stream going for the whole 2 days. We're going to be doing some side events as well that haven't been announced yet. We're figuring out all the details on what's actually confirmed. But it's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll have a broadcast going for like probably 8-ish hours each day. And just different players from the tri-state area will be rotating in. And we have 2 out-of-region players who qualified in. We had 2 slots up for grabs throughout the entire year. Those were won by Spicy Appies and Ramkev, who will be joining us there in New York. So it's going to be a ton of fun. Encourage you to watch it. You can watch it on twitch.tv/tri-state-TFT. It'll also be multi-streamed to my Twitch channel, Gangly TFT. And we're also going to have the ability for players to stream their own POVs. I don't know how many of those players will actually do that, though, but you'll be able to find it on the day of the event.
It's going to be a good one. I'm definitely going to tune in and watch and make sure that Gangly wins the whole thing. I'm going to feed him tech. Keep your Discord open. I'll make sure to give you all of the good pointers, and they'll definitely not grief you for sure.
Wait, and I just want to say before you move on, something I'm actually terrified of. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm just going to get hate watched by the couch my entire heat. Like, it's going to be miserable because normally I actually feel like I've got a bit of sauce, and I've got no juice for this event. I've got nothing. So I've got 1 week to figure out how to one-trick Bel'Veth. Maybe that'll save me, but I'm actually terrified of the couch and what they're going to say. All right, anyway, go on, Jack.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but I couldn't let you have all the fun. So, this is a kind of a formal announcement. It's been announced on Twitter, but the Columbus Convergence is back on February 28th. This is our 2nd iteration of this, hosted there in Columbus, obviously, hence the name. And we're super excited to bring this back for all those who are around Ohio and the Midwest and able to hang out. We're trying to rival what Tri-State has, and we're starting to build up a little bit more of finding out who the dark horses are. We've got Jungle Book, we got JD, we got me.
Yeah, go on. Continue that list.
That's about it. Oh, we got Downpour. That's who we got. We got Downpour, too. That guy plays sometimes. It's pretty good. Anyway,
isn't Riri play there?
Yeah, Riri plays there.
Yeah. We got the real Honey Bear. He's also in Michigan.
Yep. A Honey Bear.
If you are from the Midwest or want to come hang out in Columbus, Saturday, February 28th, we'll be at Game Arena right outside of Ohio State's campus. It's a great venue. It's a fun time. So if you want to sign up, you can find those links. Probably I'll put it in the description. You can also find them on Twitter. You can sign up there. But I think that's enough for our event announcements. We ready for this? This is the main event. So without further ado, let's jump into reviewing the Shurima Cup. So to set some stakes for this is a TPC event, the very first one of the set, which is the Pro Circuit. This is what it classifies someone as a quote unquote pro TFT player, because you're in that tier 1 league. And going into this tournament was a really, really long patch because of the winter break. And then on Thursday, before a Friday tournament, is when the patch actually hit live. And it didn't hit PBE until the very 24 hours before, basically. So the meta was super, super unsolved going into the tournament. At least that was my perception. And I watched a good amount of the scrims and stuff. And so this is a top comps list from the weekend, but I maybe not completely telling of what actually went on. So, Pocky, what was your experience with prepping with little to no time before on this patch, and then playing and figuring out during the tournament?
So as I said, I did play a ton of games in the week leading up to the tournaments, and a lot of that was on the previous patch. I was just trying out random stuff, so I was playing like Echo, Sonar Reroll at times, and it feel like they were kind of like on the cusp of being like playable. So between like certain things, kind of taking into account nerfs and buffs, I did have most of the read of like those two reroll I felt were gonna be strong. Ionia didn't look like they were getting that much touched. And I wasn't too sure about Bilge, but I kind of like learned how people were playing Bilge through ladder when I was playing, because I actually didn't get to scrim. I don't exactly remember why, but I pretty much just didn't play any scrims. I was just playing a bunch of ladder. It's kind of like watching G lights most of the time on a subathon. So most of what I kind of like learned and like had the meta read on was just kind of combination of like understanding how the changes will affect the meta. And I thought I had a pretty strong read. I didn't really know much about the Belvev comp, but it seems to do really well as well.
Wasian, what was your experience like getting the scrims in and being able to prepare for a tournament with not too much time? It wasn't not normal in that way.
Yeah, I pretty much played like as many scrims as possible, and I guess I felt like Bilgewater was super strong, Belvet was super strong. Those are like not entirely new comps. Like I would say we had like a lot of practice on them from PBE in the last patch and stuff. So I was like pretty comfortable playing those, and I do think I played like a lot of those in the tournament. And then I was also willing to play like Demacia from Demacia opener, Ionia from Ionia opener. I was like willing to play Rise Ziggs, but like I knew it was not going to be like a very frequent thing, because it's just like so hard to like make it to the board. It requires like so much gold, and like it's a lot easier on like ladder than it is against like TPC players who are playing like much stronger boards throughout the game. So yeah, I think Rise Ziggs was like a little bit of like almost like a bait that people like when the PvE scrims were going on, they were like, oh my god, this is like so strong, it's gonna be like completely dominating. But then during the actual tournament, it was like not really dominating that much. It was like really hard to get to, and you can see like the play rate is like not that high, and the AVP is not that high either. So that was kind of like my read and what I ended up doing.
Wasian, when you are, I want to go back to the scrims for a second, because something that stands out to me when you only have I guess a day of scrims on the actual patch. I guess you had the PBE scrims as well, so maybe a little bit more than that. How much of the time that you're playing scrims would you say is devoted to trying out new ideas versus how much of it is like confirming thoughts that you have had about the game? Because that's one of the hard things in TFT is, one, you don't always get a spot to try the thing out that you want to test, and with such limited time, it's kind of hard to make sure that you're using your games efficiently. Did you feel that in those scrims leading up to the weekend?
Yeah, I would say I was doing a lot of like trying new stuff, and then like the confirming was kind of just through like watching like what other people are doing well with. So like I guess one example is like I got offered like the Ishtal Expeditionist in a scrim, but I just like skipped it because I was like, oh, I already know how to like play this, and like I already know how to like win with this. So yeah, I would just like skip it and then try out some like other line that I was like less confident on. So yeah, I was definitely trying a lot of stuff.
Pocky, what was the And I remember watching some of your games, so this is why I'm asking this question. What was like the coolest comp or like most unique comp you played that had like some level of success?
I mean, I played a lot of Bilgewater over the weekend, but it was like mostly Fizz and TF focused games. But I did think, like, I didn't know about the CN tech with the early stuff, but I did have a game where I pretty much played it on day one of the tournament, where I was re-rolling for all of it because I took branching out and I got Ixtal, and I somehow kind of had a full win streak. So I was playing Echo Ixtal cash out, but then I took the wrong quest thinking I would lose fights. And I never cashed out Ixtal, so I had to report you at some point. But I think like if I kind of recognized like how strong my board was, I would have been able to come out first on that game with like Echo 3, Nico 3, Pi 3, nearly Brock kind of stuff.
Sounds like you were cooking. I love it. Wasian, how about for you? What was like the coolest comp you got to play?
I think I played like some cool AP Flex games. Like I feel like everyone had like the idea of like Rise Zigs only, but I feel like I played around like Seraphine a lot. Like there's one game I won that was like Seraphine, Zillion, and then I just played like 7 frontliners, and then it's just like infinite stall for like the Zillion. And yeah, also on the last day I just played some like random like LeBlanc Flex because I was just like too poor to play anything else. And I ended up like top 3 in that game. So some cool like AP Flex boards.
I love it. There was so much like as I was watching it, I went back on ladder and like climbed like 100 LP in a few games because I was like, okay, I learned so much from watching you guys play rather than try to figure it out on my own. And so I always appreciate that when watching TFT. It's almost like a study session for myself. But let's take a look at the scoreboard for this tournament because we had our 32 players going in, and obviously 8 made it to the final lobby. We'll talk about that in a second. But here is our day 1 scoreboard. This is a screenshot after 6 games, and you two were crushing it on days 1 and 2. Rank 3 for you, Pocky, and rank 6 for you, Wasian. Pocky, what was like the secret sauce? You bought forward one game and you went 5th that game, but you were really, really consistent.
I mean, the first 3 games were straight up just Bilgewater games that, like, the third game, I missed TF3. I'm not too sure if I should have even went for TF3, but the other games, I did kind of, like, just play whatever I was given. I had a weird branching out Echo game, and also just, one of the games was just a Ixtal cash out. I was, like, fairly confident with my read, and I was just gonna like play those well because I did look into, when I was prepping, a lot of it was just look into stats for like itemization for things like Echo, Fizz, and Fly, stuff like that. So the games played towards what I had prepped, and it worked out as a result.
Legion, there were a lot of players in the bottom 8 that I think were not surprising. Milk is one player that people were pointing at. It's not really having a ton of practice, but even if we look at the rankings from before the event, Hostway Deleted, Ladder Sweat Slayer, Jungle Book, these were all players that were not rated super, super highly. But there were also a lot of players that I think people had a pretty strong perception, thinking that they would do quite well, that ended in the bottom 8. Was there anyone that really stood out to you as a surprise for an early exit?
I mean, yeah, I would say both Darth and Ripple were pretty surprising to me. Like we were like practicing and like studying together, and I don't know if they had some like exceptional meta read, but I don't feel like they had like a horrible meta read. I mean, I feel like we all had like similar meta read of just knowing that Bilgewater is like super broken and like somewhat willing to play like all of the other lines. Yeah, I think like being on a 2-day patch definitely had something to do with it. Probably just like a lot less comfort. And yeah, I could say like I watched their game, so I'm not exactly sure what happened, but that was like a bit surprising to me because I would definitely think of them as like above average TPC players, and I would have expected them to do well.
It sounds to me like you're saying that you would have expected Darth Nub and Ripple Overdrive to be pretty safe early picks for a fantasy draft, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I feel like they're definitely people that like don't get day one very often.
Yeah. All right, that's it. Just we'll circle back to that maybe a little bit later.
I think, especially considering like how well they did in Paris, I was like expecting them to like
Yeah,
continue
that too.
doing well. Yeah. So
I'm
bet
also
it's
just
TFT.
it is TFT for sure. I'm just now looking at Darth's scores as well. First, eighth, first, sixth, eighth. So this guy was flipping it first to eighth. So
Oh yeah, Darth does do that a lot for sure.
yeah, that's definitely indicative of the play style. So we lose 8 players after our day 1, and then it gets really interesting on day 2. This is personally my favorite day of the Cups because there's so many cuts that happen. After 2 games, the bottom 8 get cut. After another two games, the top 4 and bottom 4 go different places. The top 4 move on to the final lobby, and the bottom 4 get cut, and then there's 2 more games. And I want to ask 2 things specifically. One, I'm going to ask about the difference between getting out in those 10 games versus having to play all 12. And also, Wasian, I want to talk about your journey because it was an emotional one. I know, based on what happened. So I want to ask about that first because you came into the day really hot and then went 7-8. And I think that you thought you were out. Is that correct?
Yeah, I thought like I read the score sheet wrong because they basically updated like half the scores and they didn't update half the scores. So like for some reason I had like read it wrong. Like I think I thought that they didn't input the final game yet, but they did for a lot of people. So I was like, oh, I'm like this low and I went 8th. Like that means I'm out. So yeah, I just thought I was out of the tournament. I just like ended my stream and stuff. And then yeah, people ended up like DMing me and they're like, oh, you're still in, like come back. So yeah, I had to like come back. And then yeah, I came back. I knew I was like near the bottom and I got offered like you're still Expeditionist. And I was like, oh, I need a first. So like, I'm just going to click this. And then yeah, that game was also kind of a roller coaster because I like messed up my cash out, which was like a dumb mistake when I was like guaranteed first, but I still managed to go like second anyways. And like I definitely should have won that game. So there's like a lot of bad mistakes in that game, to be honest. But yeah, after that, like somehow managed to make it. And even at the end when I went 8th, like I actually think that final 8th was like not really my fault. Like I think it was just like quite an unlucky game of you just have like the Graves tee up and you're just sitting there like waiting for an Alawi like every single turn. And there's like nothing you can do if you don't get an Alawi. And yeah, that was just me. And I didn't get offered like a single econ augment the entire game. So you're just like losing with no econ augment. You have no ability to make it to a board. So I didn't really feel like that game was my fault, but I was definitely like, I was like super annoyed. Like I thought I was out. And then yeah, distribution ended up being like pretty good. So I made the final lobby.
Yeah, I remember being on Frodan's co-stream and watching Game 9 specifically and seeing you in an amazing spot, ready to just win this game, and then just not having 3x stolen for when you bought XP. And I was just sitting there like silent. I was like, this isn't right. This isn't how this is going to end. This isn't right. What's your thought in that moment? Because obviously you brought it back. You're able to level to 10 and buy the XP. But it's specifically in those moments, like what is like the mental like when you're going through that?
Oh, I mean, of course I was like, oh my God, like I can't believe that this happened. But then at the same time, like I knew like, oh, I'm still 2 lives. 48 gold is not like that much gold. Like even if I have to like open sell my board to get the cash out, like even on 1 life, if I get the cash out, like I should still have a really good chance of like making a Brock 2 and winning the game. And like I knew that like I could actually win some rounds on my board because my board was like really strong even without the cash out. It was like 2 Brocks, like a Nidalee 2, a Nico 3, like level 9 Azir, all that stuff. So I was like, yeah, this is like a really bad like I should have already won the game by now. But if I like lock in, then like I knew that I could still place well. Like I actually thought I think I was supposed to win that game still. So
I wanna talk to Pocky about also starting off cold, because and Pocky, you might need to help me fill in the gaps here. I remember there was a tournament last set where you had a similar day 1, went into day 2 near the top of the standings, and then you had, I want to say 4 bad games and then got eliminated after 4. It was something similar, but in this tournament, you start off with an 8th here, and obviously we can see in the standings, you make it out after 4 games, you get to move on to day 3. But can you talk a little bit about like what that feeling is with the new format where you're not even guaranteed to get to the next set of games, where even a large lead from day 1 doesn't guarantee you a 6-game sample size? And I imagine that makes an 8th place at the start of the day maybe have a bit more of like a mental tax on you, because sometimes, like Wasian is saying, you go 8th and it's not really your fault. It's just a really, really hard game. How important is it to be able to like bounce back after that first game to continue your tournament life?
Well, what you're referencing, like pretty much last TPC, like my AVP across all the tournaments was pretty bad. That was because in like day 2, I was averaging like a 6 across all the day 2s. It was like pretty terrible, but I was like averaging like 3-ish in day 1s. For this one, the first game was just one of those wandering trainer lobbies, and some stuff went poorly because I got like installed, and it didn't really affect me in that situation. I was like pretty confident. I had, from what I saw of like other people in my lobbies and stuff, like I felt like I had a strong like grasp of the patch, and I felt like as long as I just play my game, get TF or something, I'll be able to make it out. So the mentality was honestly perfectly fine after that age.
So is this the dawn of a new day 2 Pocky here on out? All TPCs averaging. What did you average here? What this like roughly?
This was
4.5. This is
4.5.
literally 4.5. We'll take that, right? You could get a lead on day 1, average 4.5 for the rest of the set. You'll be at Worlds, no doubt.
I mean, that would be the goal. I hope I can, because it was a shame that didn't get the World's qualification, but the goal now is just like get the most amount of points.
I want to ask you guys specifically about the difference of probably Wasian for you having to play those last 2 games versus Pocky being able to, send it in early and take a good night's rest. So what does it look like for you, Pocky, to know going into game 10 that you already made it to the finals, and how does that feel?
I mean, it's definitely nice that you get to like avoid just like extra games of variance. But the main thing I would say is like the points that matter a lot, and then just being able to kind of get some rest for the next day. I think that was all I was really thinking about. I didn't really think about too much of like, it's like, what do I mean? It was just like, it was nice. It was convenient.
Wasian, for you, what is it like having to play those last 2 games where it's a little bit more high stakes, but also just realizing that, if those first 2 games didn't go that way, you probably could have been in the same spot too?
Yeah, I definitely had that thought of like, if I just didn't mess up the first 2 games, like I wouldn't even have to play right now. Yeah, like I was number 1 in points in that like final lobby, so I knew like, I don't even have to average like really well. Like if I average like a 5th, like I'll probably make it. And yeah, in my very first game, I had no direction going into the augment except for like 2 like Xin Zhaos and like a bunch of AD components. And I was like, if I hit the Zahan augment here, my game is like so easy. And then I hit the Zahan augment, so I felt like really good after that.
Yeah,
really.
That one was a fun watch.
Yeah.
I can't help but think about Minhee's run from regionals this past set, right? It was Minhee, I think it was Minhee, that got tie broke multiple times all the way down the ladder. It was like tiebreaker to not get out in 10 games, and then tiebreaker again to not make it. It was just the 2, or was there? I feel like there was a third. Maybe it's just the 2, but it was like tiebreaker to not make it into the final 2, and then it was tiebreaker to not get into the. It was into TPC, right? Or was it into day 3 of competition? It was literally into TPC. Yeah. It's like so rough. And that's like the scary thing about this format too, is I'm not suggesting that Minhee didn't get in because he was tilted about not getting in over tiebreaker, but it is just kind of disastrous to see that happen where you're so close to auto qualifying in, and then even getting the point isn't enough if you lose a tiebreaker. It can have really disastrous results. And it's one of those things where it's like, you win the tiebreaker, and Minhee was top 4, top 8, whatever the first cutoff actually was into TPC, and instead he's just on the outside looking in. Like the change in format to add these 2 last games, it really does change the stakes of the final couple games of competition. It makes Saturday night way more exciting, I will say. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, it definitely makes it more exciting.
I also think it rewards those who are playing really well to be able to have that break, and also it makes that cut not as egregious, right? Like if you just play all 4 games and then bottom 8 gets cut, it just doesn't feel like you have enough of a chance to make a comeback. But if you're just losing 4 at the bottom and 4 people are really happy, it helps balance it out. But let's talk about this final lobby because it was a very interesting one. First, I want to recognize that all of the regions were represented. We had Quinta, who was represented from Brazil, and Michael making it back to the final lobby again from Latin America, alongside the rest of these NA players. And I think this was an interesting one because we'll talk about this a little bit later, but this was, I would say this is not who was expected to be in this final lobby. Who of you guys surprised you the most this weekend?
I didn't play actually a lot of games with a lot of people in this final lobby, until the final lobby. I'd say JD kind of surprised me because
that's what I was.
I feel like I played a lot with him in the first 12 games, and he was just top 2ing every single game that I was in with him. So, yeah, I don't think he was doing anything that special. I think he was just playing well and solidly, and also getting quite a few Bilgewater slots. But yeah, I feel yeah, he popped off very hard.
Pocky, how about for you?
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. It's mostly JD, who's it's not that surprising, considering he went to Worlds last set and he's just kind of always really good. But I do know he hasn't really been, he's been busier, at least in preparation for this cup. So it was definitely surprising to see him do so well. And kind of just it's always a surprise too. It's not that much of a surprise, but it's seeing Soju consistently make it to the final lobby. I think it does go to show just how much just having the reps and being kind of just changing the mindset for when you are playing tournaments can matter a lot.
I also think we have to give a nod to Quinta, who last set I was kind of vocal about not being sold on Quinta as a player. Quinta has obviously shown some really high highs, made it into multiple final lobbies, and every time that Quinta made it to the final lobby, just kind of bottomed out. And it's a trend that didn't only exist within set 15. If you kind of followed Quinta's past career, you kind of saw a very similar trend where there were multiple events that Quinta would enter, and even if he would advance far into a tournament, he would very commonly bottom out on a specific day, right? So if there's 64 players remaining, he might end up 60th, 32 players remaining, 31st. This bottom quartile of placements that made me really skeptical of Quinta's ability to perform consistently in the TPC. But at this point in time, I believe this is Quinta's 3rd top 8 since joining the TPC, which is something that not very many players in the TPC can say. This is a great showcase for Quinta's trophy case, and especially coming off, a Worlds run, which maybe was not as hot as he would have liked, but he did make it there to the international stage, and then following it up with a 4th place in the first TPC. I think Quinta deserves to turn some heads, and maybe I was wrong in my assessment of Quinta, and maybe many other people along with me. I think Quinta has very clearly earned his spot among one of the more elite players from Brazil. So yeah, gonna take my licks and
take my ball and I'm going home. Nope.
No, Quinta's doing a great job. He clearly deserves to be here. Good job, Quinta.
I also want to recognize the situation that he was in. I don't even know if you know this, Nick. Game 2, that 8th place was because his power was off, which is just so unfortunate because there's so little you can do to actually make that work. And he battled with that for a while. It felt like throughout these next few games, disconnecting and connecting, and he still got himself into check for that last game, that game 5. And so I was just really impressed by that mental fortitude. So I just want to say shout out. That was good.
It did seem like Pocky was the main culprit of pauses throughout the day, more so than Quinta's power going out, though. I saw a lot of pauses from PockyGom.
I don't know. My T-Mobile is just terrible. I saw my ping spike up to like 8,000 MS at some point. I was just like,
he's playing from the moon.
Yeah, but it's definitely Quinta's like situation was a lot more unfortunate than mine. Like I was able to fix like my ping issues. Like, it just came up very frequently, but it fixed itself like fast enough. That didn't really matter.
Another player that I want to kind of give the flowers to here is Me First or Eighth, who is brand new to TPC as well, and had pretty low expectations coming in, making it to the final lobby and having a fairly good showing also, I think is great. Chinnington continuing to show up and prove that he is a good player and someone that we should continue to look towards. And obviously Michael, who now at this point is someone that you definitely firmly within top 10 of the Americas in every tournament that they enter. So excited to see them back as well. But let's talk a little bit about how this day developed. So I remember messaging Gangly, who was not watching because he's a family man and you know was doing the proper things. And I was like, do you want spoilers? And he's like, yes, spoil me. And I said, Pocky and Wasian are off to a crazy start. They're both in check after 3 games. And he said, if Pocky wins without me, I'm going to be so mad. And
without me, because I'm not going to Worlds this set, right? Yeah. So if Pocky ends up in Alicante and I'm not there, I'm going to be so pissed.
He's going to do that regardless. So anyway, so what was it? Those first 3 games? I feel like entering check after 3 games is very unique because it changes everything for how you guys play. And I know I want to ask Pocky first because I know you don't have a ton of checkmate experience. How did you feel after game 3?
Oh, I do have a lot of checkmate experience.
Oh, do you? Sorry.
Oh,
I just know Wasian has a lot.
The old days.
Sorry.
Yeah, the old days. Yeah, we were playing checkmate as our main tournament qualifier.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
Challenger Series was checkmate. Like all this stuff was.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not a dinosaur. Sorry.
Yeah. But I think it's like really rare for 2 people to get into check after 3 games. I think that's like almost like never happens. And I did see kind of like game 4. And then when I saw Wasian had the exalt spot, I was a little bit worried, but then I saw like which quest he had to take. And I thought I could win out, but I think like had some bad beats, as they call it, for not being to win out that game. And then we know what happened in game 5.
Can we dig into some of those last 2 games for you, Pocky? Actually, because I actually finished watching everything today, so it's a little bit more fresh in my mind. There were 2 lines that Frodan's co-stream was talking about. I don't know how much of it was actually on your radar at the time, but in the game where you took the call to chaos, and you ended up getting rerolls. Obviously, it didn't seem like it lined up with exactly what you were looking for at the time. It didn't seem like an unplayable option either, though. That did feel like there was an opportunity for you to stay on 8, use the free rerolls, and play for like a 3-star 4 cost out, or go 9, and you chose to go 9 and try and cap out there. Can you maybe walk us through what you were thinking in that moment and why you chose the decision that you did make?
I mean, honestly, in that game, I remember just like looking around and seeing that like in terms of 4 costs that were available for me to go for, I would kind of have to go out of my way to go for them.
You would. It'd have to be something that doesn't fit into your board natively. You did have like the Wukong, so you could have made like that was like the one option you did have that fit on your board, and I think anything else would have needed to be just something that's uncontested that doesn't actually fit on your board.
Yeah, but I think Wukong was already contested, and it's like if I wanted to play MF that was already contested as well. I don't know. I was just like a little bit confused there. I think maybe like even just leveling so early was possibly wrong. But all I know is like that Call to Chaos was like straight up the worst one I could get from clicking that augment, because I could like make use of like any other one. Like even I mean, with my HP position, I think egg was like potentially doable. But even like the golems, like there are ways to adjust to the golems, because like I could either play for vertical bruiser or more vertical bilge, depending on which golems I get. And it was just like I got the rerolls. I probably misplayed the rerolls, but yeah, I was a little bit just annoyed at that point. And so I tried going 9, maybe try to cap out like legendaries, but
Game 5, you ended up playing just a kind of, it ended up as like a more standard Demacia game, right? But from what I remember, the mid game, you're playing around the multiple emblems. You had some Void stuff in the co-stream. They were talking about, is there a way to go into Void and then also play like a Void Demacia hybrid, having both Baron and Galio, I think is what they were, the line they were discussing. It had some wild stuff in it. You ended up playing what seemed to me as like a more humble game. And I actually, this is the game I'm more interested to hear your thoughts on, because I was a little bit surprised to see the board you ended up with. I think I thought maybe there was some, and again, this is stemming from me not having as many reps in this set, too, where like I kind of just assumed there was some spicy board that you would have landed on that felt like it had a better chance of winning out, because it didn't really feel like the Demacia board had a great opportunity to win out that game.
Yeah, I mean, I looked back on the game quite a bit. There's like probably like 2 things I could have gone for. I mean, part of it was just like getting the 4 belts. Maybe I should have like reforged them for different components. But I do think like when I got the 2 Demacia emblems, I should have definitely looked to play maybe towards Silas and like 6 Arcanists, because I would be able to fit all of them, or just go for a 3-star 4 cost. I think that was like the only option, seeing like what spot Wasian was in, to actually like win out. Because yeah, like the normal Demacia board, I just didn't have enough damage, and like struggled to kind of compete with the other people's boards at that point. So I do think that game, like those last 2 games, I feel like someone else in the same situation might have been able to like win out from there, which is like my big regret, really.
Wasian, let's dive into your last 2 games, but specifically game 4 first. So game 4, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Game 4 was that Ixtal game, which was promising. Obviously, Ixtal can provide some really high caps, as we've seen, but obviously ending in 8th place doesn't really matter too much when you're not going to win the game. But what was your thoughts during that game?
Oh yeah, I wasn't like really sweating it at all. Like I'm pretty sure that was like a super unlucky game. I think if I didn't need to play for first, I would have just played like Shadow Wilds that game. I had like 6 Viegos or something. But I just knew that Shadow Wilds like never wins unless you get to some like 3-star 4 cost or something. So yeah, I chose like the Ishtal line, and yeah, I chose like pretty like kind of higher variance augments in terms of like the augmented power and like the advanced loan. And I like lost like the 2 out of 3 like 2 times in a row. Like it was I augmented into like a gold augment instead of a Priz augment, which was like really bad for me. If I got some like tiniest Titan or something, I feel like I would have had like a good chance to win the game. Yeah. And then obviously like the advanced loan was kind of like forced in my spot, and then it was like a Priz augment on the last one. So yeah, I got like really screwed over by that. Yeah. And like I knew I just like got unlucky that game, so I wasn't really like sweating it too much. Even my Ishtal quests were like really bad, I guess. Like I like that 13 round quest is like really good on 2-1, but on 2-5 it's like a lot worse. You have to wait like 3 extra rounds of stage 4. Yeah. But I was like completely forced to take it because I didn't have any other quests that I could complete. So yeah, I wasn't really sweating that game too much because I just knew that it was like kind of an unwinnable game, and I was just focused on winning the next one. Were
you watching Pocky's game very much during game 4? Or were you a bit more focused on
I
just what you were
was like,
doing?
I was seeing like, oh, is there any way that I can like really like kind of like grief him because he's the only other player in check, and I didn't really feel like there was any way I can grief him. Like the allowies, you can just buy them in the build shop, and there's like I didn't really have enough money to like hold like Bilgewater units or something, and I kind of just needed to like stay alive. So yeah, to be honest, like during that game, like I felt pretty confident that he wasn't going to win because I feel like there was like 2 people streaking. It was like JD and someone else, and me first or eighth, I think it was. And I felt like they had like really, really high roll spots. So I kind of thought that we were going to a game 5 like the entire time. But
Let's talk about this final game. So Pocky's spot was a little bit less inspiring, but we had 4 people in check at this point. It was you two, JD and Quinta were all in check going into game number 5. And so now, 50% chance-ish that it will end in 5 games. And we specifically had one person that, if they won the game, could, have would save the lobby, and that was Soju, who ended up going second in this game. Wasian, as you're evaluating spots in this game, and obviously I want to talk about your board for a second, but what does it look like when you're battling with someone who can set it to another game and like this is your opportunity to close it? Like how does that feel? How's the mental in that situation?
to be honest, like I felt like very confident. I won like even on 5-1, even though my entire board was like 1 star. I was like, I just knew that with like my augments, and like I'd seen like a lot of people play this comp and just like win out on like 1 star boards, and like my augments were just like that insane that I felt like very confident the entire time that I was winning. And I think I like played it pretty well as well, especially like the positioning, like avoiding like getting fizzed, and just staying like opposite side of set, not really getting like my Alawi 3 or my like Kench or Volibear or whatever like set ulted. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I like, even though my board was like 1 star and it might have looked kind of iffy, I actually felt like very confident after I saw like, oh, we got dropped like 30 gold on 5-1, which was quite good for me and quite lucky.
So this was the gold encounter, but you had triple combat augments, if I remember correctly, which is a different way to win out, but not necessarily what we would classify as like the traditional win out. Usually you play like super greedy and make it to a super high cap. What was your decision making early in that game, knowing the encounter, to be like, I'm going to lead into these combat augs instead?
To be honest, I wasn't really happy about my first augment at all. Like, I scouted around, I saw like everyone has like spreading roots, which is like very, very strong right now. And JD had like Lichbane TF, like Bilgewater opener on 2-1. So I kind of thought like the game was going to end, and like not for me. Like I thought like someone else was going to win. I took the tier augment because I had like the Ari to play around. I could slam like Shojin on Path of Spirits Ari, and I got dropped like the Bilgewater, so decided to go into like the Bilgewater line. And I knew that the Bilgewater line was like super high cap, so I was pretty much angling it from like 2-1, I guess. And I was like looking for econ augments, but because obviously I want to like guarantee hit my board, but I didn't really get offered any, and I just clicked like the best combat augments that were kind of available, which were like really good ones in my spot for sure. Like the Jewel Lotus and the Spirit Link were definitely both like super strong, although like it was a bit sus not having like the upgrades, but I knew that this board is like really, really strong on 1 star, so I wasn't too worried.
The strategy you played around rolling on 7 for LeBlanc, can you talk about that? I think it's a very unique thing to this set versus a lot of the other sets most recently, is the ability to roll and stabilize to be able to go 9. Can you talk about that decision?
Oh yeah, that game was kind of just like a tempo Timmy game, basically. I mean, I loaded up on 3-2 with like Scion pair, Milio pair, LeBlanc pair, Cho'Gath pair, Shen pair, and then I was like really poor because I didn't have any econ augment, and I was looking for an econ augment, but I didn't get offered one. But I was like, yeah, like sure, like I do want to make it to like Rise Ziggs, or like I think those LeBlanc openers usually want to play into some sort of like Volibear plus Rise type of setup, and like I knew if I rolled I wouldn't be able to make it there. But I was like, oh, with these 5 pairs, like I just have to roll, or else I'll like lose the game, and like I have to like win this stage. And I rolled, like I had to roll to like true 0 to actually hit some stuff. I ended up hitting like Milio 2, Scion 2. And then I was like really poor for like the entire game, but because I had like really good combat augments, and LeBlanc is like really strong right now, and my Scion was also like very stacked with the Sunfire from 2-1, then I was able to actually win like a lot of rounds in like early stage 4 on like a level 7 like Scion 2 LeBlanc 2 board. And like going third, which I feel like that was like a really good third that game.
And then obviously in the end game, it was pretty clear, probably to the whole lobby, that your board was the final boss. Especially after you hit most of your stuff with the Volibear duo carry and all the different things that go into that, what people call like the Chinese tech Bilgewater board with the Lowy 3. Anyway, it's pretty sweet board. What is it? How was your experience? Because I know last set you missed going to Tactician's Crown, and obviously that is a goal always for the TFT players, especially at both of your levels. What is it? How did it feel to be like, this is the first tournament, my first opportunity. I've already locked it in. I'm already going back to the Tactician's Crown. Now I just get to practice and prep for that, as well as obviously playing the tournaments as best as you can.
It definitely feels amazing. Like, I feel like missing one Worlds is kind of just like, like it happens. Like, you can just get an unlucky regionals or whatever. But I feel like missing 2 Worlds in a row would be like a pretty big disappointment for me, especially since I've made I don't think I've actually ever missed 2 in a row. It feels like really good to have that locked in, and I'm definitely going to be still trying hard for the rest of the set. I feel like I take competitive TFT very seriously, especially now that I'm full time. But it's definitely kind of like a weight off my shoulders that I'm locked in to go to Worlds.
Pocky, I feel like your story in TFT is slightly different than Wasian's, in the sense that when Wasian came up, he was locked in and immediately always considered one of the best. And you are someone that's kind of ebbed and flowed, and I think your results have reflected that, quite frankly. There are sets where you are locked in and you're trying really hard, and everybody knows that when you're playing at your best, you are one of the best. But we don't get to see that super, super often. And even in this set, you're saying, 2 weeks ago, I had 30 games in the set, and then I grinded really, really hard. I imagine that just because you were not playing and grinding super hard 2 weeks ago, that it means that you're not interested, or that this second place finish and coming this close to Worlds doesn't mean as much to you. Can you talk a little bit about even though you didn't win, what it means, what it means to you to have such a strong performance, to show that obviously when you are grinding really hard, playing 80 games in a week, that you have what it takes to kind of still compete with all the young guns who have come up over the years.
For sure, it's satisfying. I was definitely pretty content with how I played throughout the whole weekend. I felt like it's a thing that I feel like I've always kind of had an edge on a lot of the other players. A lot of people are really good now with prepping, and kind of I would say almost everyone has a positioning edge on me, APM diff. But when it comes down to understanding, kind of, especially when it is something like a new patch, being able to just kind of play off of what you know about TFT and just the overall set, it's satisfying being able to rely on that and just to perform, because I feel like that's kind of always how I function. Going into this tournament, I am kind of associated with the PMB people, but I didn't really study with them at all for this tournament at all. So I was just kind of doing all the studying by myself, and kind of just watching not that many TFT games. And I feel like despite that, it's I proved this, that when I put my mind into it, I can perform. And that's something that I would say it's hard to manage, as well as I feel it's hard to know, since I don't really know Asian that well, or their stuff that well. But it does feel like sometimes they manage that kind of diligence or motivation better than a lot of other players do in the better scene for the NATFT. And I'm overall satisfied.
Wasian, I'd like to hear kind of your take on this, because I think Pocky raises a very interesting point here, that it's when I am diligent, when I'm working hard, I love that the results come, but it's hard to keep that going all the time. Pocky's saying here that he feels like maybe you are a bit better at holding yourself accountable to like always playing and practicing. Is that something that you have to try to do, or does it come naturally to you?
I think it comes pretty naturally. Like I care a lot about like doing well, and yeah, I used to be like pretty hard on myself when I like had bad tournaments, and I think recently I'm like not so hard on myself because I just understand that TFT is a game of variance and it happens. I guess the way that I think about TFT is like TFT is about being like very good like every single tournament. It's much better to be like very good every single tournament than it is to be like the best one tournament and the worst one tournament in terms of like maximizing your odds of winning, because like how often does like the best player like actually win a tournament? Like probably not very often at all. But how often does like the worst player win a tournament? Probably the worst player like never wins the tournament. So yeah, I just think about it as like you just have to be like very good like every single tournament, and then like the results will come. So that's how I think about it.
That's one of the hard things about TFT though, is in order to be the best person at every single tournament, you know, you look at other games, League of Legends, any shooter, you can rely on your hands to carry you so much further. And in TFT, the hardest part about it, I think, for a lot of top players or a lot of aspiring competitors, is that you can't really ever take your foot off the gas, right? Like, do you Wasian, not feel that like that burden of knowing there's always something else to learn? You step away for 2 days and suddenly the game looks different than it did the last time you opened up the client.
I think that's actually one of my favorite parts of TFT is just like the ever-changing nature. I find that like really long or like solved patches can be like quite boring for me. I think it's like a lot more fun when people are just like constantly discovering and like learning and improving. Like I think like early set is like I always have the most fun playing TFT when the set just comes out, like that kind of novelty factor. And yeah, that's like definitely one of the things that I love the most about TFT is just like the constant patch cycle and just that it doesn't get like stale because it's always changing.
I think one of the things that TPC has showed me is that good players just are continuing to be good all the time. And I think that was part of the idea behind the TPC being created is, hey, for people like Wasian and Pocky who have continually, you know, performed at a high level, and obviously both of you have now been in the TPC for 2 sets in a row, it is rewarding to be able to stay in this level of play and not have to grind and grind and grind even more so, like on ladder and through these other cups and trials and tournaments and all these things to stay in it. And I think as we try to transition a little bit more to looking around the globe about what happened across the world in TPCs, we see a lot of the consistent faces continue to show up. So first, I want to highlight Soju, who is one of 2 people now in the world who have made every TPC final lobby, and it is very, very interesting to keep an eye on. But we do have other winners across the globe as well. So Wasian did win, Achi over in APAC won, and also very, very interestingly, a very good talking point, Revan finally got that win after he made 3 out of 4 of the TPC final lobbies, and man, was it a doozy. It was a fun one.
Revan winning is so huge for primarily 2 reasons. The first of which is that Revan was the player that out of the global TPC invite slots was the one that stood out because he wasn't really competing at a high level when he got invited, and a lot of people felt like he quote unquote took the spot from someone like Wet Jungler. And there's all these tweets you could look back and see, and in context at the time, like it actually did seem pretty reasonable. And it's crazy how much he has just shown up since getting invited to the TPC. But the other reason why it matters so much is that Revan is the first player from Spain to ever qualify to the Tactician's Crown. This is an event hosted in Spain. Like the players are all traveling there. It's so huge for that country to be able to have representation on the international stage. I know Panda, Impetuous Panda, is got to be extremely happy about this win. He probably wanted to be the first person to do it, but I think he'll probably take Revan. And also the fact that Revan has like a huge platform is not nothing, right? Like it's great when we have streamers with a big following be able to make a deep run, be able to qualify to attack crown. It's great for the game. It's the same reason why we love when Soju does well, because when Soju does well, TFT does well, and similar for Revan. So yeah, I'm really happy for him.
It was a pretty sweet finals. He didn't play like anything crazy special in that game 6 either, and was able to pull out the win. It was a great watch, and obviously he was emotional. As were, I was celebrating with him as well. Do want to talk about Double, who is no longer KC Double. He's looking for a team. Continuing to dominate, no matter what happens. This guy shows up and is at his best. He almost won this in game 4. Also, he was very, very close, but went out with like a sad 6th from a possible win out spot, and is the second person in the world that has also qualified to every single TPC finals. So this guy, we talked about him at the end of last set as a possible GOAT conversation. Actually, no, it was with Frodan two episodes ago.
The last episode, wasn't it? Or two episodes ago. Yeah. 2 episodes ago. Yeah, you're right.
And he just belongs there. This guy just continues to be so incredibly good. But talking about influence, I think we would be remiss if we didn't show this tweet from Ibai, who, if you don't know who that is, I'm sorry, because if you don't speak Spanish, I guess it makes sense. But he is one of the, if not the biggest creators in the world, maybe besides Mr. Beast, and said if Revan qualifies to the TFT World Championship, he'll get his name tattooed live on stream the same day he achieved it. I have not heard if he got the tattoo yet.
Well, Jack, do you know the context of this tweet? Have you read the first reply to this tweet?
No, of course not.
It's Ibai saying Revan took his phone and tweeted this.
Is it really?
Yeah. I don't know which is true, but that is what the first reply under it is him basically cursing out Revan for taking his phone and tweeting this.
Listen, I just want the man to get a TFT tattoo, or a tattoo of Revan's name. That'd be fantastic. Just to wrap up our section about TBCs across the globe, this was who made the finals over in APAC. A very star-studded list, including Ironbog, SCSC, Steppy, Lil Bear, who's been actually really dominating NA ladder. So someone to keep an eye on alongside Terry, and then a couple people that are a little bit more unknown. But Achi did pull out the win there. Ironbog came close, and you guys were telling me earlier that YBY1 went 9th. He got tiebreakered out of this final lobby. Is that correct? So he would have been the third person to. He was the only other one of those two to make it to every single TBC final lobby. So that was absolute crazy consistency from so many across the globe, and he's right there. He's right behind there. So
I do like real quick that APAC very clearly does have this. In North America, we talked about the big 3 previously, the big 4 when replay was really in its prime, but Ironbog and YBY have just been running away with probably the strongest region in the entire world, and they're just 2 standouts that feel head and shoulders above the rest of this region. Is really cool. Ironbog didn't make 3 final lobbies, but he won 2 TPC events, right? Because he last set. So it's wild to me to see how 2 players can enter a region that every time we go to international play, they are outperforming the rest of the field, and yet those 2 players are outperforming the entire region on average. So yeah, Ironbog has very quickly become one of my favorite players in the entire world, and YBY of course, but I really like this Ironbog guy.
I also saw that YBY and Milk were hanging out, so maybe it'll rub off on Milk and he'll pop off next cup. It could happen. Well, let's talk about a little bit of the Tier 2 circuit. The Tactician's Trials happened this past weekend as well. Obviously overshadowed a little bit by the TPC event, but had some really, really big names playing as well as some blasts from the past. This is the final scoreboard with the top 64 and then the 8 after, because oftentimes people drop or can't make the cup, so those people in the waitlist could make it as well. Who, Pocky, stands out to you on this list as players that are like, oh, this guy played in trials and now is in cup and is looking to make a run back to the TPC and regionals?
Honestly, I'm surprised with how many people are in trials. Like it's a lot of like top contenders really that are playing in trials, and them doing well during the trials is like not too much of a surprise. People like DQA, Philip, right, as well as Rain. I will say I was a little bit surprised about like Greya and like Deepay being on the wait list. And also I do know T-Lights got DQ'd for
Yes, he did.
unfortunate circumstances. But it's always like cool to kind of see them, generally speaking, always be consistent enough to like make it back to cup regardless of like ladder situation.
Wasian, who on this list?
I guess there's a few people like Philip looking to fight his way back to tier 1. Also Stellar Minhee, who missed out on tier 1 by 1 point last time. Minhee needed like a first in his last game to make it, and he managed to get a first. That's pretty exciting. So yeah, I'm looking for those guys to qualify for tier 1 hopefully. And also this Chang Shen Li guy, I didn't even know he competed, but he's like always in my chat and he always snipes me on ladder, and I think he's actually pretty good. So
Nice.
that's like a dark horse for the future.
Is there anyone you were looking at, Jack?
I want to shout out one person, and well, I want to say first of all that seeing some blasts from the past in here, like Slooper being on this list, one of like the BR goats and OGs. I want to shout out on the wait list Nico Lover 32, and now that sounds very absurd and very strange, but I want to shout them out because they just beat my team's butt in 4v4 last night. So. But it made me feel better when I saw that they're probably going to play in Cup next week. So I was like, okay, well, I don't feel as bad. But
nice.
If you're not familiar with what Tactician's Trials is, it is a way to qualify for the regional finals. As you see in the bottom left of the graphic, there's Tactician's Trials that qualify for Tactician's Cup, which can then qualify you for the regional finals, which can then qualify you for so many other things, like the Tactician's Crown and the TPC for the next set. So for all those who aspire to be a pro TFT player, this is the way to do it. And for all the players that made it to the Cup, now they have a shot to make it to the regional stage, which is just incredibly exciting. And I always love being able to cheer on some of these underdog stories as they work their way up through the whole couch to crown idea that we talk about all the time.
The Cup players weren't super successful, like on average, at the regional finals last set. The ladder players was like the qualification method that did kind of stand out, which makes sense. I think, you know, with small sample size, we also had a really weird trials format last set too. It's like there's a whole nother episode we recorded about that one. And so the quality of player that comes in through Cup tends to be significantly more volatile than the quality of player that comes in through ladder. Sometimes just high rolling one event is enough to get you there. But I think it is fun. I love that we have the Cup qualification methods, even if on average they are going to be a little bit weaker. That's not to say that the players who come through Cup are weak players. It oftentimes also has very high caliber elite players. It's just the range of talent tends to be a little bit bigger. So no, I like that we have this, and you know, I'm excited to see how it looks moving forward.
I think that's very similar to what Wasian was talking about earlier, with being really good at one patch or one cup will get you through to regional finals, where at the TPC the consistency is rewarded. So Wasian, do you still see that being the case with this format?
Well, I guess there's like, I feel like as a tier 2 player, probably like, well, maybe like less so now that they changed it, but I feel like the main way to kind of qualify for regionals is through like ladder, and like the cup is like a little bit more like RNG. But yeah, I think the point that I was trying to make was more so just about like, it's better to be like very good for both. Like your odds of making the play-ins are higher if you're, or like the week 1 is higher if you're like very good for both of the cups than if you're like really good for one cup and like you're not playing one cup, or you're just like not very good. So yeah, that was more so the point that I was trying to make. But I do think the format kind of rewards consistency for tier 1 and tier 2, especially through like the ladder snapshot system. I feel like that's like,
yeah,
you have like the definition of consistency. You have to be very high on ladder every week to qualify to regionals. So
yeah. Well, let's keep moving along with our show here. Last week, we introduced the Rolldown rankings presented by Citadel, and a very fun ranking. It's fun to get a lot of people's opinion on what is expected from players. And I'm really excited to see what it is next time before the next cup, because it's going to change a ton. I know it. Because specifically, this is what happened, is the people that are highlighted are those that made it to the final lobby, which Wasian being the highest ranked player to make it at 2. But then past that, it's Michael at 8, Soju at 10, JD at 16, and then 20 through 24. We had Quinta at 20, Me First Wraith at 22, Chunnington at 23, and Pocky at 24. So clearly, people's perspective on who was going to make it was not quite the reality.
All right, blanket question for the two of you. Pocky, you first. Same question for the two, though. How much of this top 8 was genuinely just influenced by the fact that this is a 2-day patch, or a 1-day patch, I guess, officially before tournament starts?
It's hard to say necessarily, but I feel like all the people who did make it were like pretty much all good players anyway. So it's like, it's more of just like rankings are, in my opinion, often just kind of arbitrary based off of like vibes almost. So like I put myself at 1 star, so like 1.0, for example. But it's like it's a lot vibe based. So that's kind of my opinion, because it's like with people like Chunnington and B First or 8th, and weirdly JD, I'm like surprised JD was rated that low. It's like they're kind of just newer, but they're clearly like, especially I think like Chunnington, right? Like he's like consistently doing really well on like ladder and stuff. I think part of it is just kind of like that pedigree when people are ranking.
Wasian, what do you think? What was your read on the top 8 versus the perceived rankings going into the event?
Yeah, I mean, I think like maybe 2-day patch like shakes it up a little bit. It's like a little bit more high variance. But to be honest, I think much more than that. Like, I consider like, well, I don't know if I filled out the rankings correctly, but I didn't put anyone like higher than a 9, and I didn't really put anyone lower than like a 3 or a 4. Like, I feel like everyone is like a very good player that has like totally the potential to make like a final lobby in TPC. And yeah, I put everyone like I think it's like a lot closer than people might imagine, because I just think like everyone in TPC is like a very good player that totally has the potential to make a final lobby. So yeah, that was kind of like more reflected in my rankings.
There's an interesting conversation, Jack, here that we probably would not do on this episode, but another one where like we talked a little bit about how there are clear tiers in the way that people rank people, right? It's like Dish Open Wasian are together, then there's a gap, and then whatever. I would be curious to see if these gaps that are represented on the rankings are also if they also match like the perceived gaps by someone like Wasian or Dish Soap or other players in the TPC, because it sounds like what Wasian is saying is that like these clear gaps that are represented in the rankings themselves, he doesn't believe that those gaps actually exist, right? That like there probably isn't a full 1.5 delta between these two players in terms of like their ability to win TPC.
I mean, definitely an interesting conversation. I think perception, especially from players who, I got a lot of DMs as I was asking people to do this. Is like, I don't really know these players too well. It's like, yeah, that's okay. This is just about your perception of them as you've played either alongside them or watched or you've even just heard about them. So I think of somebody like Crazy Cat, who didn't do too bad. Like they made it to day 2. The public perception of this guy is that he didn't even know he was making TPC. So of course people are going to put him lower than probably he should be, at least as a general consensus, because he's clearly a good TFT player. He played well in regionals and made it to this spot. So interesting conversation. I do think we need to save it for another day, though, because we're already an hour-ish in. So we'll keep moving, because we have another segment coming up. And Gangly, this is we might be sellouts, but this one I'm really excited about because I use this every day. I currently have this up in my browser because this is the Stats Corner sponsored by Meta TFT, and it just makes sense that it's stats sponsored by the best stats site.
Yeah, if you've never used Meta TFT before, let's take a moment to tell you a little bit about it. Meta TFT is a site for TFT compositions, TFT data exploration. It has a bunch of VOD library abilities as well. And it also has a desktop app, which I've personally used. I've used it for as long as it has existed. It lets you track your match history. It allows you to do a really cool round by round breakdown of your games. There was a period of time when I was like going really hard in TFT and I was just doing VOD reviews, not by actually watching VODs, but I would just do like a round by round review of my boards through the Meta TFT app. So, and I really love the founder. Guthers is an awesome guy, has poured a lot into making Meta TFT a good resource. And I think people in the last couple of years have started to realize how good this website and the application actually are. So yeah, we're really, really grateful to Meta TFT for coming on board to sponsor the Stats Corner. If you guys want, you can download the app. We're gonna have a link in the description where you can check it out and find the link to the website to use that. But let's go for it, Jack. And welcome everybody to the Stats Corner. Today we're gonna be talking a little bit about Wasianiverson. Whoa, wait a second. You see a king in this picture. I see a king wearing Tri-State merch. Let me just say, this is the picture that the Compete TFT account posted. He's wearing the High Roll Diner Club t-shirt, perhaps the, just a little jewel to his crown. But you can see, if podcast listeners, I'm just going to tell you right now, this segment is best enjoyed visually. So you should probably, at this point in time, go check it out on a browser at some point. But we have stats from Wasian, from sets 11 through 15, 274 games, 3.9 AVP, 58% top 4 rate, 19.7% win rate. You can see these numbers right next to that, where he's 4th in AVP, 10th top 4 rate, etc. This is relative to TPC players, and I want to put a little asterisk here because there are players in the TPC that have very low sample sizes. Players like Lumen, even JD, who, because he hasn't always qualified out of trials and sometimes doesn't compete, his numbers look weird because it only actually tracks cup and higher events. So there are some players who their stats are inflated. So this number of being 4th in AVP, I would say, is more realistically like a 2nd in AVP from Wasian. And then on the right-hand side, we have his one run from the Shurima Cup. So it's cool to look at. It doesn't really mean that much. But the thing I really love about Wasian, and I think that differentiates him from players like Dishsoap and Setsuko that we do kind of compare him to, this is going to sound like it's inflammatory. It's not, though, because I think it's what makes Wasian exciting is his top 4 rate is lower than the average player of his caliber. And he kind of makes up for that top 4 rate with having one of the best win rates in the entire world. 20% of the time, Wasianiverson is running away with a game. And I love that sometimes you go into a tournament in Wasian and you start off the day as like 6-7 or 7-8 or whatever, like these low placements, and nobody doubts that you can dig yourself out of the hole because everybody knows that you're capable of just going 1-1 to cap off the day. And I want to draw a little comparison here, Pocky, because I don't know if you feel this way, but if you told me that this stat line was yours, I would also believe that. I think back to set 7 when you were playing a lot of the scale score and stuff, the Olaf, whatever. I remember that was when I first started tracking data consistently across events. And you were a player that had a sub 50% top 4 rate, but a super high win share. And I've always kind of attributed you as one of the players that when you top 4, you're really good at being able to convert that into a first. And to me, that's what I've always associated Wasianiverson with. It feels like if you give this guy the opportunity to go first, he just doesn't drop those games. I'd like to hear from the two of you what you think is required to be able to do that. Even if you're not the most consistent, what skills are required for you to be able to convert those top 4s into first? And Wasian, we can start with you since this is about you anyway.
Oh, sure. Honestly, I feel like I kind of alternate having like high win rate low top 4 rate and like high top 4 rate, low win rate, kind of like between sets. Like I guess one example is like the last Worlds I played. I didn't win like a single game out of like 18 or something, and I top forward like almost every single game. So yeah, I think it's like very patch and like meta dependent. Just depends on like the comps that I like to play. But I would say in general, I do like to play like high cap lines, and like I do kind of think like, oh, like what would like a robot be playing, and like or like some TFT AI, and the TFT AI would probably be playing those like high cap lines to like win as much as possible. So that's probably something that goes into my like decision tree, and like I factor that in. And yeah, winning's pretty fun, so I like to play stuff that can win.
Pocky, what's your read on it?
I would say, like generally speaking, when I do watch some of the higher cap players, like generally speaking, like Wasian, Setsko, it's like the typical people you think of. They are really good at just being able to kind of evaluate their spots well and know when to greed. And that lets them actually be able to play for those high cap lines while still having like a decent board. And I would say like nowadays, I feel like I don't go first as much as I used to. And I'm pretty sure it's like I do have a big, like if you watch me play, I'm pretty much AFK when I position on my games. So it's like I do think like even just having that kind of like positioning edge and being active with like thinking about all that kind of stuff, that ends up being a big difference, because I do know there's a lot of times when I'm pretty sure I have like a higher value board, stronger board, but I just lose fights because I get out of position.
Wasian, to wrap up this section, and I think this is a common question we ask with this, when you look at these stats of how you've played specifically for the last a bunch of sets since set 11, do you feel like this actually describes you, or is this like surprising?
Yeah, I think this is like pretty accurate, I guess. I do think like honestly, I expected the AVP to be like a little better, but I guess part of it is also just like playing in like multiple worlds, and you know, you're just like, and even TPC is like a very, very strong field. So just playing against like very strong fields in general probably like makes your AVP lower, like compared to like ladder or something. So yeah, it does kind of like make sense to me, and yeah, it seems about right. And 275 games definitely a large enough sample size.
I'm also pretty sure that if this included sets 8, 9, and 10, that your stats look much better. That is a big part of it too. That like if I'm in this data that we have is based off of Clement's stats. Oh wait, did you guys lose me? No, okay.
Just for a second.
You're good.
Yeah,
okay.
It sounded like you got censored when you said the name.
So this set of data is based off of Clement's stats, which only started with the merging of the regions. But for a long time, I was tracking stats of I had my own kind of career stat stock that didn't include all of these sets. But for that period of time that I was tracking data, it was like 3.7 to 3.8 was your AVP, which I think is probably more in line with what your perception would have been. I think TPC in particular has really averaged out these AVPs.
I mean, and it's no sad feat that your second AVP to who I would guess is Dish Soap if you look at with high sample size. So, you know, it's definitely a good spot to be in as far as like AVP, but that win rate is definitely something that I'm sure many people look at as quite scary going into specifically checkmate final lobbies. So it was cool to see you finally get that win and continue to add to that win rate. And obviously your stats from this tournament, they were quite good. So they'll boost those a little bit. To wrap up the show, on our last show, we did it live, where we did at the end of it a fantasy draft with me versus Gangly versus Chat. And let me tell you, I think we might get fired.
Yeah, because I think we might be getting fired. I think you're right.
Because we can't even trash talk each other because we're tied. But Chat is clearing. I don't know, man. It's fine.
Yeah. So for podcast listeners, Jack and I are each at 165, and Chat is currently at 213. Now, in my defense, who were the two players that Wasianiverson was most surprised to see at the bottom 8 at the end of day 1 was Ripple and Darth Nub. And those two, I'm just just going to put it out there. I love them both. They're both fantastic players, but they are holding my team back a little bit because I was okay with sacking tournament 1 for Milk. I drafted Milk thinking it would be a long-term investment, but I was banking on Ripple coming in hot after Paris, Darth Nub having multiple great sets back to back, and we're gonna step it up. Great job, Pocky, for being the only person from my team to make top 8. I appreciate your hard work here.
Oh
No
man,
problem.
I almost took Wasian with my 101. I would like to say that I thought really hard about it, and then I picked Dish Soap because, that's what you're kind of supposed to do, I think. But I regret this decision now. I would like to switch it back. Chat, do you want to trade?
Yeah, I'm down to trade. I'm also down to trade. Were either one of you here for the draft? I don't remember if you guys were in chat at the time. No? Okay. Well, you guys do represent chat. How do you guys feel about your team?
Our team's looking pretty good.
I mean, that's a really good team. I'm surprised that they were able to get that.
Yeah, I think I tried to get a little too spicy with my draft. I think I might have cooked myself by accident.
Okay, chat doesn't matter. Whose team is better between Gangly's and I's? Which one do you think is better? Ignore the scores.
I would personally put Gangly's higher.
Yeah, I was
It's
gonna take
like-
Gangly's as well, but mostly just because he has like 3 of my friends, so I kind of have to say it's his.
Yeah,
Dude, it's the most successful study group of all time. How can you ever be unhappy with any of them?
But I have K3 Soju. What?
Yep.
Yep, that's all I have to
Basically,
say.
you guaranteed yourself a final day with no bonus points after a final day.
I will take 27 points every week.
Yeah.
I'm down. Anyway, this will be fun. It'll continue to have the week by week score, but also cumulative. So we have some ground to make up. But yeah, I believe maybe. I don't know. Chat's.
I feel fine about my team. I drafted my team for the long game, so I'm not discouraged after one tournament. This is just low variance. I mean high variance, low sample size. Next tournament, Ripple, Darth Nub are both making top 8, and they're getting me some points.
Yeah, I mean, shout out Chunnington and Fan the Kiki. They showed up. My last 2 picks. I believe in you guys, and they continue to show up. That's here nor there. Anyway, let's wrap up the show as we always do with our competitive roadmap graphic with the You Are Here. We moved really far along this graphic in just 1 week because so much happened last week. But going into this weekend, we have Tactician's Cup number 1, January 16th through the 18th. Then we have a little bit of a break until the last weekend in January where the Bilgewater Cup, which people were saying should have been this cup, will happen January 30th through February 1st. So that will be a very exciting watch, but obviously we'll keep an eye on everything that's happening in the pro scene. I want to thank you guys both for coming on. Obviously, you guys came off a really busy weekend of a lot of crammed prep for this tournament, and obviously long days playing in the tournament. So thank you for coming on. Pocky, anything you want to say to all your raving fans out there?
My raving fans.
There's so many of them.
I mean, there's so many of them.
There
I
are.
stream so regularly. I mean, overall, I'm just happy to kind of like have a good performance again. I just want to be able to like make worlds one more time. So I'm gonna try to just like lock in for the next few cups. And I'm also pretty excited to just attend another LAN with other people in the tri-state area. Get to see them again. Very excited.
Yep. And you got some checkmate practice. Did you know that Sunday is checkmate? I don't even know if you knew that.
I mean, one could assume it's exciting.
Okay. Yeah, so Wasian warmed you up. So now you get to take a shot at the real king.
I need to see Gangly in checkmate. I really want to see that. I want to see this guy trying to win out. Anyway, not necessarily a win out player. I'll say that. Wasian, any shout outs? Anything you want to tell the general TFT esports fan about how you're going to represent of the Americas at Worlds?
Yeah, I'll be doing my best. I'm very happy that I made it back to Worlds. Also, thank you for having me on the podcast. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, I think it's really cool that you guys do this for the TFT scene.
Well, we appreciate having great things to talk about. So thanks for continuing to play. Gangly, final words before you go and win your tournament next weekend?
Yes.
Will there be another podcast? Maybe. Anyway.
Will there be another podcast before?
I don't know. I haven't looked at the calendar. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I would say I'm open to receiving any tech people might have. Wasian's already given me some homework that I'm gonna, take on this weekend and figure out how to one-trick Belveth. But if anyone else has got some sauce, share it with me on Twitter or on Discord. I will very happily receive it because I do need a game plan. Other than that, shout out to the Spirit Forged release that happened today. Maybe it wasn't super great, but it did happen. And yeah, you know what? Here's to learning, because I can't wait to see that next learning tweet coming out from the Wristbound account.
That was an experience. It was fine. We were called together.
They're always learning. Eventually, you have to retain some of it.
They'll figure it out, right? As we all do.
Yeah.
TFT's learned so much. We always read those learning articles, and they learn from those. So.
Yeah, they do. Okay, Jack, your turn.
We'll figure
your
it out.
shout-outs.
It's my turn for shout-outs. Shout out Midwest TFT. If you guys want to come to that land in a month and you get jealous of Ganglies, you should come because it'll be a great time and maybe not as crazy and high quality and with the whole qualifier system, but we do have corn in Ohio, so that's a great thing. Thank you guys for watching the Rolldown. All the support has been overwhelming. Thank you to Meta TFT for sponsoring a section of this podcast. So thankful to have community support from great websites that I use all the time. It feels good to have that support. So shout out to Meta TFT. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't yet, please like, follow, subscribe, share the Rolldown. It's the best way to support us. And without further ado, we'll see you guys next time.